You are listening to Weight Loss Made Real, and this is episode 254. I'm your host, Master Weight Loss Coach and author, Cookie Rosenblum. Today and every Tuesday, I'll be your coach and your guide to help you end that emotional eating and lose that extra weight. If you just found me, welcome. And if you're a regular listener, welcome back. This is where we talk about your habit of emotional eating or stress eating, which is the main focus of all the work I do. This is weight loss for the thinking woman. Here is where coaching meets psychology and psychology meets brain science. And this is where your problem ends. So get comfy and get ready to be coached. Before we begin, I want to remind you, as always, that this episode of Weight Loss Made Real is brought to you by the Freedom Group. The Freedom Group is where true, deep change takes place with me as your coach. If you want to lose weight and lose the whole problem, the Freedom Group is the place for you to do that. There's a waitlist link in the show notes, or you can go to weightlossmadereal.com/group. Every once in a while, I go back and look at prior episodes that you may have listened to if you found me a while ago, or you may not have heard if you just found me and jumped in. And some of these episodes you need to hear again. So today we are giving you a classic replay of an older episode that's very important in your journey. Why did you just overeat? And what is next for you? Today we're going to talk about slipping and getting back on track without struggling. Now, slips are inevitable when you're learning something new. And your main goal when you're in a slip is to learn how to recover from it without punishing yourself. Having a slip in relation to how you're eating simply means that you ate more than your body needed. That's it. That's all it means. So today we're going to talk again about how to recover from a slip without beating yourself up, without judging yourself, and without overcompensating and starving yourself. We all overeat sometimes, especially on our way toward learning how to eat naturally. The important thing to look at when you do overeat is what you do immediately after. Do you punish yourself? Do you restrict your eating to make up for what you just overate? Because if you do that, you may very well be sabotaging yourself without realizing it. Restricting your eating following an overeating episode messes with your survival instincts. It reinforces a habit that's exactly what you want to stop doing. When you don't give yourself enough food to make up for overeating, your brain thinks you're starving, and this is going to make you want to eat even more. So listen in and join me in this coaching session as I teach you why it's so important not to restrict your eating after you've overeaten and how to do that. So if you regularly swing between overeating and then undereating, this is a must listen. All right, join me now. You are here because you want to work on your weight, or you want to work on your eating, or maybe you're here because you want to feel better in your body. All are wonderful goals. But in the process of changing how you see yourself, how you think, and how you look at food and your body and how you eat, in that process, it is totally likely that you are going to fall down at some point, meaning you're going to give in to the old habits that you have. It might be that you give in to the urge to binge, which is a really strong pathway in your brain if that's something that you're challenged with. It might mean that at some point you're going to give in and finish something that you're no longer hungry for, where you just have this physical momentum going and you just keep going until that food is gone. Or it may be that you're an emotional eater, and every time you feel something that doesn't feel so good, emotionally, a feeling, you're going to run to food to feel better. It's a pattern. It's a habit. So no matter what you struggle with, we can say most likely that in your quest to stop doing that, you are going to experience a break, a fall, a lapse. And when you do, you will eat more than your body needs, right? That's what you're trying not to do, but it's inevitable that at some point in this learning process, it's going to happen. So when you do that, you will probably get mad at yourself. And when you get mad at yourself, the thing that I see most people do or try to do immediately is compensate. They try to compensate for what they just ate too much of by wanting to now go to the other extreme and eat very, very little. And it's known as restricting what you eat. When you say to yourself, I feel better when I don't eat sugar, I'm not going to eat sugar. Or I'm allergic to gluten, I'm not going to eat flour. Or sugar and flour make me feel tired and run down, I'm going to stay away from both of them. Those decisions are not restricting yourself. Those decisions are simply you figuring out something that doesn't feel good for you personally and making a choice, making a decision. But restriction is different. Restriction means you're simply not giving your body enough food to run, to live. You're giving your body less than it needs. So you're walking around with an underlying hunger. And you're trying not to give in to the hunger and eat because you're trying to make up for the overeat that you just did. So why do we do that? Why do you try to do that to compensate when you overeat? It's a natural tendency, but it's not good. We try to do it because you may want to feel back in control again. You may want to limit the weight gain that you fear by overeating, by undereating. Or you may do it just to tell yourself, I just want to get back to where I was. And if you have weight to lose, that is when you may be most likely to try to compensate for overeating with undereating. It doesn't work. Firstly, it's punishing yourself. You made a mistake. You're trying to learn a new behavior, right? You're trying to learn a new way to think and feel and act and eat. And it's not that on-off switch that we've talked about. It's a gradual process. So when it doesn't work and then you decide to restrict what you're eating and not give yourself enough food, it feels like you're punishing yourself. It feels bad. And as far as your body goes, it simply can't last. You need to learn to eat adequately. If you don't eat adequately, which means approximately the amount that your body needs to function well. So if you're not eating adequately, then you're walking around hungry. This signals your lower brain to wake up and go into survival mode. And it does this for only one reason. It does this to protect you. It gives you a really strong drive to overeat to make up for the undereating. What happens then is that you have a nice flow, only it's not what you want and it's not so nice, but you have a cycle and it gets stronger and stronger every time you do it. And the cycle goes from overeating or binge eating or emotional eating, and then it goes back to undereating because you think that's what you need to do to make up for your lapse. This becomes a repetitive habit. It becomes a really strong brain pathway. So you hold on as long as you possibly can, but then it's inevitable that you break down from restricting and go back to overeating again. Adequate eating means that you're giving your body the amount of food it needs, not what your brain decides is enough food, not what a diet tells you is enough food for your age and height and weight and activity level, because you can give yourself what the books tell you to eat, but you may still be physically hungry. So I want you to go by what your body's telling you you need and not to deny it, not to restrict it, because if you do, you're creating a cycle that is very, very hard to change. Now, to break this cycle, when you see that you've overeaten, what I want you to do first is take a look at what happened. But I want you to do it in a totally neutral way. I want you to do it like a detective and just look for clues about what happened. What threw you into overeating? Was it an emotion that was so uncomfortable? Was it simply a habit? Were you triggered by something? Was it that strong animalistic urge to binge? Whatever it was, just know that in order to get out of it, you have to learn to look at your thinking, to look at those urges, to look at your desire. But while you're doing that, you need to ask, was I giving myself enough food? And while you're looking at what happened, I want you to ask yourself this question. Can I be compassionate about this? Can I just be okay with seeing that I'm human, that I'm imperfect, that I'm learning something new and I'm doing my best and I'm frustrated sometimes, but never to the point do you ever deserve punishment. As punishment with less food sounds so cruel, doesn't it? When we think about not feeding somebody we love, who we're responsible for, whether it's a child or a young person or a pet or an old family member, can you just imagine if they ate too much birthday cake one day or somebody gave your dog extra treats in his bowl? Would you punish them the next day by withholding food? I'd have to guess that the answer would be absolutely never. No, of course not, because you're probably a very compassionate person to everybody else. But I want you to apply some of that compassion to you. In order to break this cycle, I want you to see what happened. I want you to go back and ask that important question. Am I eating adequately? And be honest about it, even if you have to lose weight, especially if you have to lose weight, because you won't break the cycle of overeating ever if you continually restrict the food that your body needs. You need understanding. You do not need punishment. As soon as this overeating episode is over, you can go right back to eating normally as soon as you're hungry. That's right. As soon as you're hungry, I want you to go back to eating when you're a little hungry and stopping when you're a little full. Your body is telling you what it needs, when it needs it, and how much. So I do want you to acknowledge your mistake. But then I want you not to stay stuck there, not to be pointing a finger of blame. Take responsibility, but then move forward and try to understand where you fell down and why, and seek to improve it next time. But no punishment, please. The goal is to feed yourself naturally. So the goal is to go from a little hungry to a little full. Perhaps what you've been doing up to this point is exceptionally hungry to overly stuffed, right? That's like the pendulum going all the way from one low end, super hungry, very, very, very empty, to all the way to the other end, overly full. I want you to get back closer to the middle. Little hungry, little full. That's a healthy rhythm to be in. Starving to stuffed is not what you want to do. So please know that if you overeat, there is nothing that you have to make up. There is nothing that you have to do over. There is nothing that you have to compensate for. There is no compensation. The goal is strictly to get right back on track as soon as you can. So here's what I want you to focus on next. Look at it as not giving yourself permission to overeat and looking for an opportunity to do so, but simply know that at some point, because you're learning a new skill, you probably will overeat. You probably will. It's just what you've practiced. So the next time you do, I want you, of course, to try to stop yourself while you're doing it and catch yourself. But if you can't, and you've already gone through the process of overeating, then I want you to just break the cycle of overeating and undereating. So just look kindly at yourself to see what happened and go right back to eating from a little physically hungry to a little physically full and see how different it feels from the punishing, grueling expectation of I overate and now I'm going to take care of myself by whipping myself back in shape and restricting as much as I can.
we know for sure that doesn't work.
Okay, my friend, that's it for our coaching session today. I hope you enjoyed this classic replay and got something important out of the main concept, which is what to do after you've overeaten, because you will. Whenever you're learning something new, you are actually absolutely going to slip. I hope to see you back here next week, where we will continue to work on your emotional eating and that habitual overeating step by step until they both become something you used to do. We know that's your goal. So for now, this is your Coach Cookie reminding you that as you search for answers, keep it real, just like you. And I will see you next week. Enjoy your holiday season.